naranjana yamuna tira vanachari yamuna tira vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 4 चैप्टर 30 टेक्स्ट 30. Am I audible behind to everyone? Can you hear me? I don't think you can. The volume seems to be low actually. Is the volume low? No, I don't think so.
Hare Krishna, are you able to hear in the back side?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me now?
संपत प्रभु आवाज आ रहा है?
Okay. Now we are. This is 4:30. Now we have dhrudaye yajño brahmaitad brahmavadibhi namuhyanti na shochanti na rushyanti yato gataha Navyavad dhrudaye yajño brahmaitad brahmavadibhi namuhyanti na shochanti na rushyanti yato gataha Navyavad dhrudaye yajño brahmaitad brahmavadibhi namuhyanti na shochanti na rushyanti yato gataha Navyavad dhrudaye yajño brahmaitad brahmavadibhi namuhyanti na shochanti rushyanti yato gataha Navyavad dhrudaye yajño brahmaitad brahmavadibhi namuhyanti na shochanti na rushyanti yato gataha Navyavad dhrudaye yajño brahmaitad brahmavadibhi गुह्यन्ति न शोचन्ति न रुष्यन्ति यतो गतः. Vaishnavis. नव्यवदृढये यज्ञो ब्रह्मैतद् ब्रह्मवादिभिः न मुह्यन्ति न शोचन्ति न रुष्यन्ति यतो गतः. Navyayvat, ever increasingly fresh. Hrudaye, in the heart. Yat, as. Gya, the supreme knower. Paramatma. Brahma, Brahman. Etad, this. Brahmavadibhi, by the advocates of the absolute truth. Na, never. Muhyanti, are bewildered. Na, never. Shochanti, lament. Na, never. Rishyanti, are jubilant. Yataha, when. Gataha, have attained. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the super-soul within the heart of the devotee, makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahman position by the advocates of the absolute truth. Is there some problem with the sound system? In such a liberated stage, Brahmabhuta, one is never bewildered, nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahmabhuta situation. A devotee is inspired by the supersoul within the heart to advance in devotional service in a variety of ways. The devotee does not feel hackneyed or stereotyped, nor does he feel that he is in a stagnant position. In the material world, if one engages in chanting a material name, he will feel tired after chanting a few times. However, one can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra all day and night and never feel tired. As chanting is increased, it will come out new and fresh. Rupa Goswami said that if he could somehow get millions of years in tongues, then he could relish spiritual bliss by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There is really nothing uninspiring for a highly advanced devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he is situated in everyone's heart and that he helps the living entity forget and remember. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee gets inspiration. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam enamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. As stated, kushala karmanam. Those engaged in auspicious activities and devotional service are guided by the super soul, described in this verse as Gya, one who knows everything, past, present, and future. The super soul gives instruction to the sincere, unalloyed devotee on how he can progress more and more in approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rajiv Goswami in this connection says that the super soul, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, exists in everyone's heart, but in the heart of the devotee, he reveals himself as ever increasingly new. Being inspired by him, the devotee experiences increased transcendental bliss in the execution of his devotional service. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। My dear Lord Krishna, please guide us all so that we can learn how to become more and more aware of you and become more and more absorbed in you. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today morning. And today we're discussing a theme which comes repeatedly in both the Bhagavad Gita and especially the Bhagavatam. This is the state of spiritual perfection or spiritual realization. And it's described as na mohiyanti, na shochanti, na rishyanti. That one is not deluded. It is this particular state. I'll be using this as a whiteboard to write or explain certain things. So, now wherever we are in life right now, we all want to move ahead. Some of us may want to towards wealth, fame, power, relationships. There's so many ways we want to move ahead. But ultimately, what do we seek? What is it that we really want in life? At one level, we want security, we want safety. We want to be free from the anxieties of life. Well, what happened? Okay. I want to be free from this anxiety now. Okay. So we all want our life to be moving forward in some direction or the other. But ultimately, whatever it is that we seek, we at a very basic level, we want security. Then at a higher level, we don't just want to be safe. We want to be happy. We want satisfaction. So we could have many achievements in life. But there is only one achievement that can make us free from two things. Free from fear and free from desire. And that is the state of spiritual absorption, of samadhi. Now, we can think of whatever it is we want to achieve in our lives. Now, we want a big house. Somebody may want 1 million Instagram followers. Somebody want to be a billionaire. Okay. All this, there is some artha in this. So, all of this can be artha. Artha is, there can be some value in it. But can we say that any of the things that we dream of achieving, they will free us from fear? No, not at all. The more powerful we become, more wealthy we become, the more influential we become, actually it brings more fear. There's a saying in English, uneasy is the head that wears the crown. That the head that is wearing the crown, at any moment a sword may come and lop it off. So what happened in Bangladesh just now? One moment a person was ruling for over a decade, and next moment is told to flee with practically nothing. Now, we could go into the specifics of the politics that led to that. But the principle is that there is no achievement in the world that can actually free us from fear. And not just fear, it is also desire. We achieve something and there's always something more which we want. And we crave for it and it keeps us dissatisfied. So, yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthitona dukkhena guruna pi vichalyate. So what is being talked over there in 622 is similar to what is being talked over here. That is there a state of achievement that can actually free us from fear and desire? These are the two primary things. Whatever we achieve, oh, there's something more. Unless I get it, I won't be happy. Whatever I achieve, what if it goes away from me? So these two things are are constant happiness spoilers. Normally we think of fear as a greater happiness spoiler than desire. But desire is also a happiness spoiler. So if I have something, I saw one ad, it says, buy this car and enjoy the envy in your neighbor's eyes. Now, what a pathetic standard of enjoyment. Like it is not even saying, enjoy how smooth this car is, how comfortable it is. It is, no, that won't give you happiness. You ride in this car and you see the envy. It's so externally dependent. It is not even, the happiness is not even dependent on the possessions that we have. It is dependent on the reaction that others have to our possessions. So how much little control we have on that. So, okay, today I may get a car that may bring envy in others' eyes. Tomorrow others may get a car that is better than mine that will bring envy in my eyes. It's like, does our happiness have to depend on making others unhappy? So this is not a very sustainable or helpful standard of happiness. So basically, we can seek happiness by external means, by achieving certain things. There's nothing wrong in achieving things. We'll talk about that later. But ultimately, happiness is not the state of our bank account. It is the state of our mind, the state of our consciousness. So once a person has achieved the spiritual absorption, then whatever external achievements they pursue, they can do that. But that won't take them away from that, free from desire and fear. So desire and fear are two prominent and happiness spoilers. So this is namuhyanti. A person will not get bewildered. Narishyanti. One will be, oh, if I get this, I'll become so happy. Nashochanti. Oh, I lost this. It's so terrible. So this all emotional turmoil can go down. So this is what the scriptures describe to be the ultimate achievement of life. Achieve that which will never be taken away from us. Achieve that which will not make us crave for something more. So I mentioned this point yesterday. Spiritual growth can be said to be, initially for all of us, the world is very important. And God, even if He exists, is very small. But as we grow spiritually, what happens is, the world becomes small for us and God becomes big for us. So as long as the world is big for us, this will bring big fear and big desire. But when the world becomes small, then correspondingly, the desire and fear will also become small. The craving and the lamenting, they will also decrease. So how do we go on this journey? How do we make sure that the world becomes bigger for us than God? Do we want that? No, we want the opposite. We want God to be bigger than the world. So this doesn't mean we don't care for the world. See, seeking things in the world is called artha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So artha is wealth, but artha is also referring to resources that have some value. So artha is important, but God is paramartha. So, but in the materialistic conception of life, what happens is, the world is paramartha for people. Kamopabhoga parama etavaditi nishchitaha. That Krishna says the demoniac people's characteristic is, they have ascertained beyond all doubt that sensual indulgence is the supreme purpose of life. It is the prime necessity of life. In fact, often the problem in the world is that the foolish are super confident and the wise are super doubtful. So when we are trying to practice bhakti, we still have doubts. Is Krishna really the paramartha? Okay, Krishna is good, but Maya is also not bad. But materialistic people are super confident. If I just achieve this, I will be happy. So because so there is actual paramartha, and there is what people think as paramartha. What they think, this is the most important thing in my life. If I just get this, everything will be wonderful for me. Those who think like this, it's a wonder that the world has so many fools. That is how Maya is wonderful. But the thing is, how do we go on this journey where we can make God the highest reality for us? See, it is this, the Vaishnava philosophy, the Bhakti philosophy, the Gita's philosophy is not that the world is false. See, when we say Maya, the world is Maya. This kind of statements often come in. Now, what does this refer to? It does not refer to the world's existence itself as Maya. The world does exist. This is not the world is Maya. What it means is, it is the world's prominence. It is how important we consider the world to be. So Maya is not that the world does not exist. The world exists. But how important the world is. Is there pleasure in the world? Yes, there is pleasure in the contact of the senses of the sense objects. But how big we think the pleasure is, as compared to that, the actual pleasure is very, very small. So Maya is not about the existence of the world. It is about the prominence of the world. So when we think the world is very big, that is Maya. So when a devotee is fixed in Krishna, that doesn't mean the devotee rejects the world. A devotee understands the world is also real, the world is also coming from Krishna, and the world is meant to serve Krishna, to be used in Krishna's service. So how do we go on this journey? I'll talk about 5 stages which are primarily talked in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, but they have very useful dimensions for understanding how our consciousness evolves. So the Yoga Sutra, there's a commentary written by Vyasa, which is considered one of the most prominent commentaries, and he describes that there are 5 stages in the mind's growth. So first, now there is something, there is a called the stage of Kshipta, and the second is the stage of Mudha. So this is Kshipta is said to be the stage of the monkey mind. Mudha is to be the stage of the donkey mind. So Kshipta is the mind is addled. Addled means confused, distracted, running here and there. It's just going everywhere. Mudha is the stage of the mind is apathetic. See, sometimes our mind goes everywhere and sometimes our mind goes nowhere. You see these 2 stages of delusion. It's just running here, there and everywhere, and we can't focus on anything. And sometimes, especially, we wake up in the morning and we are tired or we are feeling lethargic. Somebody speaks something and it's like nothing seems to register. So now the donkey is sometimes seen as a symbol of hard work, foolish hard work, of course. But the donkey is like a lethargy, apathy, foolishness, dullness. So the mind in these 2 stages is not even materially functional. What to speak of spiritually functional? So in these stages, we are just lost to spiritual reality and even lost to some extent to material reality. So both of these are a characteristic of tamas. Now, when the mind is addled, so maybe we are thinking of something, but we are so confused that nothing even materially is important for us. Like sometimes, nowadays, people are so confused. So one person came to me and said, I'm confused. Okay, what are you confused about? Actually, I'm confused about what I'm confused about. So, we can get so lost in our head. Aneka chitta vibhranta moha jala samavrita. So, in this stage, the mind is just lost. Sometimes we are not even aware. Nowadays, the social media available. People can just, one after another, watch one reel, watch. India, we don't have TikTok. But whether it's TikTok or Insta or just one reel, one shot, keep watching. And sometimes you spend an hour watching, and after that, what are you watching? Or what did you watch? Oh, what did I watch? We're not even aware. It's almost like we are on autopilot, just going after one after another. From neuroscience perspective, we're just seeking some stimulation, some dopamine, and we just get lost completely. It's a dead end state. So this is a state which we need to get out of. And this stage, God is not even present in our consciousness. And even if God is there, say even if we are in a temple, even if we are chanting the holy names, that we are not conscious at all. So we sometimes, if we have not had enough rest, and then we try to chant, then we are often in this apathetic state. So it's like we are uttering the holy name, but it's rather than connecting with Krishna, we are just lost in Tamoguna. So this happens. The Muda stage often happens even when we are hearing classes. It's like, okay, we are sitting there, but nothing is going in. And what is in also we don't know. Sometimes at least our mind is going here and there, but sometimes we are not even aware where the mind is going. So it's like in this case, too much movement, that is the stage of the adult stage, and no movement practically. The mind is almost like in a frozen state. Sometimes in sports also this happens. Like some players just get a brain freeze. They say that's the word that is used. What they are doing, they are not even aware of it. So these things happen. This is the stage of tamas. Now after that is the stage of vikshipta. Vikshipta is a stage of where we are become aware. So it's partially focused. So basically at this stage, if this is the content, this is our consciousness. Now within our consciousness, we are aware of what is present. And then, okay, maybe I'm sitting here right now. Okay, in our consciousness, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm speaking this class, and I am a little confused about what is the next point I'm going to speak, and I'm feeling a little hot, and there's so many people coming and going. Are people getting distracted? So many things are going on in our. So when we speaking, see, in our consciousness is often like a computer with many windows open. Now we can try to make one window big, but there are many windows open, and at this stage where aware means there are many things going on in our consciousness. Maybe one might be slightly bigger. So it's partially focused. It's almost like we are trying to focus, but we are not really focused. At least we are aware. Okay, I'm in a temple. I'm hearing a class about Krishna. Or if I'm sitting and chanting, okay, I'm at least aware that I'm chanting. So it's like be conscious of what you are conscious of. See, we are always conscious because consciousness is the fundamental energy of the soul. But most of the times we are not conscious of what we are conscious of. Isn't it? So at this stage, we are at least conscious. Okay, I'm thinking about this. But this is also going on in the background. We may not articulate it, but we are aware. So this is a slightly higher stage. So now depending on what we are aware of, this could be rajas or this could be sattva. Sometimes rajas and tamas are equated, but actually rajas is far better than tamas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that rajas can sometimes be an antidote to the poison that is tamas. So we all have responsibilities in life. Say suppose a parent is rajasic and a parent is tamasic. Now the parent who is tamasic may be so stoned on drugs that they don't even know that they have a child who is existing somewhere. They're so lost. There are children like that, especially in the Western world, where addiction is rampant. So it is that parents are not even aware that the child is existing. The child has to scrape for food, and the child has to sometimes take care of the parents. So as compared to that to Rajasic parent, the parent may have no conception of Krishna, no interest in turning towards Krishna, but the mother may be working in one room, and if she hears even a slight whimper from her child in the next room, she'll immediately go and see what has happened over there. So aware. There may be many things. So Rajas is also, from this world's perspective, Rajas is far better than Tamas. From a spiritual perspective, of course, Rajas is not very conducive. But for the world to function, rajas is also required. If the world were filled with tamas, nothing would function. Everything would become utterly dysfunctional and destructive. So we are partially focused. And whether we are in rajas or sattva, in the vikshipta stage depends on what we are focused on. So before I move ahead, I'll talk a little bit about the idea of consciousness. Now, what is the Sanskrit word for consciousness? Chaitanya. Now, when we use the word consciousness, what does it mean? Would any of you like to say, what does consciousness mean to you? Consciousness means awareness. Okay, that only is the question, what is awareness? But okay, we can say that I am aware of you, you are aware of me. Anything else? Sorry? Thinking, feeling, willing. Those are stages of, you could say, stages of increasing engagement of consciousness. So, thinking, feeling, willing is more actually about, thinking is like a thought has entered, feeling is we experience some emotion in relationship with it, and willing is we want to do something about it. So, that idea is becoming bigger and bigger in our consciousness. So, that's an aspect of consciousness. Anything else? Consciousness is a state of mind. Well, okay, we'll come to this. That's a fair enough. Functionally, it is fair enough. We'll talk about the relationship between consciousness and mind also in a few minutes. But yeah, that's true. Consciousness can be state of mind. Anything else? Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Okay, symptom of the presence of the soul. That is true. Anything else? Sorry? Ability to judge. Okay, consciousness. When you have awareness, then we have the ability to perceive, ability to judge, ability to evaluate. Okay, that's true. Thank you. Yes. The consciousness has many different aspects to it, and what all of you talk about is true. Let's focus on something over here. See, when we use the word consciousness, there are broadly three things that can be referred to. That can, at one level, it is like the stream of awareness. It's like, say, from me, my consciousness is going out. And say, I'm aware right now who is sleeping and who is awake. So, that's a stream of awareness. So, it's almost like you can say, if I have a phone over here, so consciousness can refer to the beam of light that is coming out. So, consciousness goes out from inside, and just like a flashlight, wherever it goes, if it's dark, then wherever the beam of light goes, that part becomes illuminated. So, consciousness is like the stream of awareness. So, wherever you can say, it's like a beam of light in that sense. So, it is what? Wherever that beam of light is going, that is what we can become aware of. Now, the word consciousness also refers to one more thing. It is the content of awareness. Content of awareness means what is it that is present in my consciousness. So what is the difference between these two things? It is, I may look at food. So the stream of awareness is going towards food. So now we could say whatever it goes towards, that is what is the content of awareness. Well, yes and no. Why? Because we may perceive something, but we may or may not focus on that thing. So the stream of awareness can go in many directions, but what is inside the awareness comes not only from outside, it also comes from inside. So if there is hunger within me, then as soon as I see that food, oh, is this something I want to eat? But say if I have a guest who has come and I want to give them prasad, then that same prasad I am aware of it, but then I am thinking that, okay, is this prasad good enough to give to this guest, or do I need to get something more tasty, do something more opulent? So the idea is the content of awareness is not just determined by where that stream is going. It is also determined by we, what we are bringing into it. This might seem a little complicated. Don't worry, I'll just make it a little more complicated. No, before I make it simple. Now, the third aspect is that it is also the agent or agency, let's put agent of awareness. Agent means there is a person who is aware. So, I am the conscious being, the soul is conscious. So, while consciousness and soul, are they similar or are they same or they are different? Well, consciousness is the energy of the soul. But at the same time, it is my consciousness. And I can't know myself apart from my consciousness, isn't it? There is no who am I apart from my consciousness. We are essentially our consciousness. So, as I said, there are these three aspects of, so where am I focusing? While I am focusing on that, what am I thinking about? And who is it that is thinking? So to give an example, let's consider Kshetra. The concept of Kshetra comes in the Upanishads quite often. The Gita also has this idea of Kshetra. So if we consider, say, a farm. So now on the farm, if this were a farm, it's a Kshetra. There are some things that are growing. Okay. Well, this doesn't look like trees, whatever it looks like. You know, I've been using this drawing for some time, but my drawing ability is not growing. Now, beyond that, there is a farmer who is looking at this. So basically, consciousness can refer to all these three things. The farm, what is in the farm, and who is it that is looking at the farm. Okay. So, say for example, we always have consciousness. We are always conscious. That's like the basic resource we have. But what is the content of our consciousness? That we can change. And who is it that is perceiving? That is also a factor involved over there. So, consciousness is the territory. Consciousness is what is present on the territory. And consciousness can also refer to the person who is perceiving the territory. Okay, so enough confusion now. Now, why is this important is, what do we change when we become purified? Is it that the territory changes? Is it that what is growing on the territory changes? Is it that the person observing itself changes? So that's the question we are going to talk about. So we are on this journey. I said that we came to the Vikshipta stage. So this is where actually spiritual life or any kind of purposeful life, it actually begins from the Vikshipta stage. Now after that is the Ekagrata stage. And the final is what is called as the Nirodha stage. This is what is used in Patanjali Yoga Sutra commentary, but we'll talk about it from the Bhakti perspective also, which is slightly different. Now Ekagrata is the stage of attentive. Nirodha is the stage of absorbed. Vikshipta is the stage of aware. So now what is the difference between aware and attentive? Say in awareness, there are many things in my consciousness. But when I am attentive, I make one thing big in my consciousness. Other things might also be there, but they become smaller. So right now you are finding this class interesting. If you feel this is important for me to understand, then there is attention. Then okay, then you may be sitting and the floor might not be very comfortable. Maybe the temperature is a little hot. But all that will go into the background. This is what zooms out for us. So this is the stage of Ekagrata. Ekagrata. Now Ekagrata can happen through different ways. One is it can happen from appreciation or it can happen from attraction. Now broadly, appreciation is associated with the buddhi and attraction is associated with the mana. So when it was mentioned that consciousness is a state of mind, it's like that, but it's slightly different. See, basically the consciousness can go in various directions based on the mind's emotion and based on the intelligence's reason. The buddhi and the mana. See, Krishna says frequently in the Bhagavad Gita, offer me both your mind and your intelligence. Mai arpita mano buddhir mame vaishyasya samshayah, Krishna says. So, mana and buddhi. So, with our intelligence, we need to understand that Krishna is the Paramartha. He is the supreme reality. And with our mind, we also need to, our mind needs to get it, that Krishna is the Paramartha. So our mind's emotion needs to get attracted towards Krishna, and our intelligence, reason also needs to be convinced that Krishna is the greatest. Buddha bhava samanvitaha. In the first verse of Chaturshloki, it says Buddha is buddhiman, intelligent. So Buddha means the buddhi is convinced Krishna is the highest reality. Bhava samanvitaha. That means the emotion is also wholly concentrated on Krishna. So now from being aware of something to becoming attentive to something. So that journey can happen either through emotion or through reason. Say if we go to some event and in that event we are looking around who all are over here, and say somebody is extremely good looking, extremely attractive, then immediately our attention may go toward that person. So there the mind's emotion is attracted, that's how the person zooms out. Now on the other hand we are looking and maybe there is some VIP in that meeting. They may not be physically attractive or whatever, but that person is a VIP and we are hoping that maybe we can meet them at least for a few minutes. Then as soon as that person, we see that, oh, where are they going? How can I go and talk with them? Should I approach them now? So there it's not so much the mind's emotion but the intelligence reason. And this is important for me, therefore that will zoom out. So in general for us to move from the stage of being aware to being alert. So this from being aware to being attentive or alert. This journey, it can happen either through the mind or either through the intelligence. So the mind's emotion or the intelligence's reason. And this is something we can actually apply practically with respect to our chanting. Either when we are trying to chant and focus on Krishna, if we have heard some japa talk before our chanting, or if we have heard some inspiring philosophical session, which reminds us about the importance of connecting with Krishna, importance of the holy name, importance of serious sadhana, then our intelligence has got that conviction. And that intelligence pushes us. This is important, this is what I want to focus on. And that is why one of the things is, while we take a vow for chanting, it is equally important to be hearing and reading. Because without hearing and reading, our buddhi is not adequately nourished. And when the buddhi is not nourished, pushing our consciousness toward Krishna or enlarging Krishna in our consciousness becomes quite difficult. So this is buddhi. Now simultaneously, it is the mind's emotion also at times. Sometimes maybe after a nice Mangalarti Kirtan or nice darshan, or maybe we chanted some prayers and we have heard, we are remembering some pastime of Krishna, we are already feeling some emotion. And yes, I want to take shelter of Krishna. I want to love Krishna. That emotion can draw us towards. Now if the emotion draws us, relatively speaking, the struggle is lesser. But emotion is very unreliable. See, when we rely on our emotion, we become unreliable. It is not just emotion is unreliable. When we rely on emotion, it's like we become unreliable. If I take up a service and I will only do it if I feel good about doing it, then people can't count on me to do that service, isn't it? So that's why at our stage, it is Vaidhi Bhakti. That if emotion comes, wonderful. But with our intelligence, we need to appreciate the Vidhi, the direction that has been given by Guru Sadhu Shastra. And that way, we can move from being aware to becoming attentive. So this is often the stage where we are at. This is the stage of anartha nivritti. At the stage of anartha nivritti, what is happening? Anartha means, what does anartha mean basically? The word anartha has many meaning, but what it basically means is two things. When we have anarthas within us, artha is meaning or value. Anartha is that which is meaningless or valueless. So anartha, it does two things to us. Anartha makes us feel that artha is anartha and anartha is artha. Sarvartham viparitam sha buddhi sa partha tamasi, Krishna says. So for example, if somebody has a lot of greed, then money becomes the most important thing for them. And for that they may give up health, they may backstab their colleagues, they may abandon their family. It's just that becomes the only thing that is important. There was a anti-alcohol awareness ad that one Russian friend showed me. It was in the times of communism. It is how people are addicted to vodka and how it distorts their values. So a family is watching TV, and on the TV the news comes, the price of vodka has shot up. And there's a son who is fearfully asking his father, who is drinking vodka, "Dad, will you drink less now?" And the father just instantly replies, "No, you will eat less now." How heartless can you get? That just for your pleasure of drinking, how heartless can we get? But at that time, that for our pleasure of drinking, we are ready to starve the very children whom we are supposed to maintain. So that is where anartha becomes artha. That pleasure of drinking becomes the most important thing, and artha becomes anartha. So here what I'm meaning is, artha here I'm using a value. That which is valuable seems, that which is, you could say, that which is great value, that seems to be no value. And that which is actually no value seems to be of great value. So basically anartha is there within us, and that's why when we are chanting, the Supreme Lord is accessible to us through chanting, and at that time our mind says, okay, what is the latest message on WhatsApp? Let me look at it. Or what is the notification on Facebook? Let me look at it. So what is happening is, and we start feeling this is what I need to do right now. So the anartha, actually, now of course the notification on WhatsApp, it might be of some importance, but is it right now something I have to see? Most likely not. If we are doing some service which requires us to be attentive, that's a different thing. But it's not. So anartha becomes artha, artha becomes anartha. So we need our buddhi, generally speaking. Jiva Goswami says that till our mind has become attracted to Krishna, that mind getting attracted to Krishna, he calls it priti. Till we get priti, the way we stay in bhakti is through buddhi. That till we get priti. So basically, the mind can stay with Krishna either because it is itself attracted, or because someone else is pushing it. So for us, most of the times, we need someone else to push it. Now let's talk about the last stage, and then we will summarize and conclude the class. So we talked about from vikshipta to ekagrata. Now we'll go from ekagrata to nirodha. So in the Bhagavatam also this term is used in 6th chapter. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Yoga sevaya. By the practice of yoga, one comes to the stage of niruddha. So ekagrata is attentive. Now it's interesting, Krishna also used the word ekagrata in the last word that he speaks in 1872. Kachid etachrutam partha toi ekagrena chetasa kachidagyan sammoha pranashtaste dhananjaya. He's saying, Arjuna, have you heard attentively? Because the Gita is not a casual katha kind of discussion. It's a serious philosophical discussion. So when Krishna is asking Arjuna, have you heard this attentively? Now it can seem a bit insulting. Say, if after a class the speaker asks, so were you attentive? It can seem, you mean I was inattentive. It is not a very polite question to ask, generally speaking. But when Arjuna is being asked this question by Krishna, that is not Krishna's crudeness, it is his kindness. Krishna knows that Arjuna is in a distractible situation. It's a war going on. So imagine this class was happening in a vegetable market. Then naturally, the speaker asks, were you attentive? That's not insulting the intelligence of the audience. That's actually being aware that there's so many distractions over there. On top of that, Arjuna was also in emotional turmoil. He was in tears, his Gandhi was slipping from his hand. So, in that emotionally turbulent state, so were you able to focus on what I was saying? So, actually, Krishna's implication is, Arjuna, if you were not able to be attentive, don't worry, I can speak it again. Whatever you are not able to pay attention to, I'll speak it again. So, attention to some extent is in our control. To some extent, it may be beyond our control. So, but from the ekagrata stage, how do we move towards the stage of being absorbed? So, generally speaking, in the ekagrata stage, if we consider, say, this is the mind and this is the intelligence. So, there could be various scenarios. See, the intelligence is going in this direction, but the mind, so this is required, generally speaking. As I said, it is our buddhi which keeps us in bhakti. But the buddhi is going towards Krishna. Now the mana can be going partially towards that direction. The mana can be going just in a different direction. Or the mana might be going even in the opposite direction. So our mind's desires and emotions may also be going toward Krishna, going in some other direction or going away from Krishna. But the buddhi is strong enough to push. Now, even in material life, people call it, there is a flow state where you just seem to be seamlessly absorbed. They call it a peak performance state or whatever. So, that time what happens is, where our intelligence wants us to go, our mind starts going in that direction. So, now, but here the mind is not really going, the intelligence is pushing along. And if the mind wants to go in that direction, so here we can say little force is required. Little force is required. The mind is going along, but not so quickly. Like the parents want to take a child, and the child is coming, but the child, okay, what is the shop? What is here? What is there? The child is going along, but slowly. Parents have to push the child. Child says, "Mommy, I want to go to the shop." Okay, then the mother has to push the child a little bit more. But the child says, "I want to stay home and watch TV. You must just come with me." Then there's a little force, more force. The mind is going up in a different direction. Most force is required if the mind is going in the opposite direction. So, but with time, gradually the mind starts getting along. So, it is, say the mother wants to give a medicine to the child. And the child doesn't want to take medicine. Oh, it will be bitter, I don't want to take it. Medicine is important, so the mother holds the mouth of the child and pours the medicine. Now, but still, the mother is pouring the medicine. The child is saying, no. The child is shaking the head. The mother is trying to hold the head steady. But, because the child is shaking the head, so most of the medicine is getting spilled out. But while most of the medicine is getting spilled out, some of the medicine is going in slowly. Now, the child is thinking this is a better medicine, but this is actually a sweet medicine. But the child thinks from the past, this medicine is better, medicines are better, so the child doesn't want to take it. But what happens? The mother keeps putting the medicine and maybe a few drops start going in and the child tastes it. So what happens? No. So once the child tastes, hey, this is sweet, then the child also wants to take the medicine. So like that, Krishna is actually, as Navyavad, as is described in this verse, he is eternally sweet, he is eternally relishable. But because of our mind's preconceptions about how Krishna is, we think, oh, this is important, that is more enjoyable, this is like that, and we don't want to focus on Krishna. But if we just keep doing that, Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapyavadya Pitopatapta Rasnasya Rochikanu, somehow we keep exposing ourselves. then gradually that taste starts coming. And the state of absorption is the most amazing state. See, the buddhi is going towards Krishna, but the mana goes even more towards Krishna. So, the mind in one sense leads the way. Say a child may not want to come to a temple, and the parents have to take the child to a temple. But the child comes to know, oh, in the temple, I can participate in the drama, and then I'll perform on the stage and everybody will clap. Child likes it. The child then starts saying, Mummy, when are we going to the temple? Let's go quickly now. So the child pulls the mother along. So like that is the stage where the inner struggle ceases. This is from the stage from which anartha nivritti has happened. Then ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. So that is the stage where absorption becomes natural and relishable. Now nishtha is the stage, anartha nivritti, I was describing anartha nivritti as the stage where mostly our buddhi is taking our mana along. But anarthas can also come in the buddhi. See, the anartha for the mana is desire primarily. The anartha for the mind is doubt. So nishtha, when we come to the stage of nishtha, that means the anartha of doubt has gone from the buddhi. So sometimes what happens is, not only our desire is shaken, hey, I don't feel like chanting, but sometimes our buddhi may also be shaken. Hey, every day I am spending 2 hours, is it really worth this much time? What am I getting out of this? There are so many other things I could be doing. So the buddhi being shaken is also possible. But when nishtha comes, the buddhi is never shaken. So then at least that brings steadiness. But then from nishtha, when we go further, then the mind also stops getting shaken, gets shaken lesser and lesser. And that's how the state of absorption comes. I'll make one last point. The difference between absorption in yoga and in bhakti. Now Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is a very short book. It is, the sutras themselves are less in number even in the Bhagavad Gita. And the verses are also shorter. It's a very small book. And it does not really very explicitly describe any philosophy. Like it talks about surrender. In the stage, among the stages, it talks about, say, something related to Ishvara. Ishvara Pranidhan is there. That surrender to Ishvara is there. But is that an end or is that a means to some other end? That the Patanjali Yoga Sutra itself does not clarify. So there, now the word Nirodha, depending on who is interpreting it, it can mean two different things. Nirodha can mean cessation of all mental activity. Now this is the Advaitic meaning of it. And the way Prabhupada translates is that it's cessation. Cessation means stopping. Cessation of all material mental activity. That means that there is spiritual mental activity. I earlier talked about the three aspects of consciousness: the territory, the what is growing in the territory, and the agent. So what happens is, in any act of consciousness, there is the subject of consciousness. That means who is observing. Then there may be an object of consciousness. What is being observed? And then there is the stream of consciousness. So these three are there in any act of perception. So say I am looking at you, I may notice, okay, you are like this, you are looking at me. So there is a subject, there is an object, and there is a stream. So now, in the Advaitic conception, what they say is that, see, initially we made the subject, okay, let's put it this way, the same thing, these three can evolve. So initially I may think, for me the subject, I think of myself as the body. The object is sense objects. That's what I am looking for. And the content of the stream of consciousness, there are material desires within it. Oh, I want to enjoy it. So this is mundane consciousness. So I identify myself with my body. Now, most people may or may not consciously identify with their body, but unconsciously they equate. I am my body only. One of the devotees from USSR, he was former USSR, from one of those states, he was telling me that once he was giving a class and he said, "You are not your body." And one person raised his hand from the audience. Okay, then he says, "If I am not my body, then whose body am I?" So the idea that I am the body is so much immersed in the consciousness. If I am not my body, then am I somebody else's body? What is going on? So the subject is the body. The object is the sense objects. Say I want to eat this, I want to touch this, I want to buy this. And then there are the desires, there's kama, lobha, whatever it might be there. Now in the pure state, what happens is, the subject is the soul. I understand I am the soul. The object is Krishna. And the stream of consciousness, it contains seva bhava. I want to serve. So this, in the Vaishnava understanding, is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is, the object of consciousness is pure, supremely pure. Pavitranam pavitrebhyo. Krishna is supremely pure. Then the content of the consciousness also is pure. Krishna, you are my Lord. I want to serve you. Aham tu akamastvak bhakta tvam cha swamya anapashraya. Prahlad says that you are my unconditional Lord and I am your unconditional servant. So he says this is pure consciousness. And then one is aware that I am the soul. This is the Vaishnava understanding of pure consciousness. Now the Advaitic understanding of pure consciousness is something very interesting. See, the Advaitic understanding of consciousness, yes, they say you can do this. This is also sadhana. You practice bhakti and you become conscious of Bhagavan. But after that, they say, okay, you understand that you are soul, you understand there is Bhagavan, and then you understand there is a stream of consciousness by which you are aware of Bhagavan. Put it simply over here. So, but eventually, they say, if this is Bhagavan, this is Jiva. They say, eventually you realize that the idea of Jiva is Maya, the idea of Bhagavan is Maya. And consciousness is the only reality. So, when they say actually you become one with God, that is an oversimplification of Advaitavad. That is what is traditional Advaitavadis, if you go to Shankar Math, they'll say this is not our philosophy. Nobody says we will become God. That is, they call it Neo-Advaitavad or Neo-Mayavad. That is, their idea is that actually any sense of duality is Maya. So I and you, this sense is Maya. So they say that this pure state of consciousness and liberation is all conceptions of I and you go away. So their idea is only consciousness exists and nothing more exists. So in Hindi they say ऐसा ध्यान करो कि कौन ध्यान कर रहा है, किसका ध्यान कर रहा है, इसका भी ध्यान न रहे. Now it sounds very nice and it's possible that we can become so absorbed that we just lose ourselves completely. But that losing is not in the existential sense. We still exist, but we are so immersed in what we are perceiving that we forget ourselves. So in the Advaitic conception, Nirodha, it just means all consciousness stops moving. It's just pure existence. Because when consciousness is going to move, it is going to move from a subject to an object or from an object to a subject. Say it is moving, say I am speaking, I am targeting all of you and I am trying to speak to you so that you understand. Now, and so my consciousness is moving from me to you, and then if I see some of you becoming restless, some of you looking at the watch, some of you nodding off, then I think maybe this class is going over time. Maybe I should end it. So the consciousness is moving from you to me. So basically, so the idea is that for consciousness to move, there has to be a subject and there has to be an object. But if there is no subject and no object, then consciousness simply exists and there is no movement of consciousness. Now this is the Advaitic idea. So Nirodha, I said Nirodha can have two different meanings. One is cessation of all mental activity, all movement of consciousness. Just consciousness exists without any movement at all. But in Bhakti, the understanding is consciousness moves constantly toward Krishna. It's Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Consciousness becomes like an ocean, and the ocean has waves within it, and sometimes there's stormy waves, and there are all kinds of ecstatic emotions. So basically here the consciousness becomes static. Here the consciousness becomes ecstatic. So that is the difference between the Advaitic and the Bhakti conception of liberation or divine absorption or samadhi. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. So we were discussing attaining spiritual absorption. That was the broad topic. So I started with why. Because this is the greatest achievement. This is the Paramartha. Why? Because this alone can free us from no desire, no more fear, no more desire. Nothing else can give us this. So spiritual growth means that God becomes the bigger reality for us. The world becomes a smaller reality. Unlike initially the world is bigger and God is very small. So this is the journey we want to go along. Now while going along this journey, we discussed the 5 stages of consciousness. So first 2 are the Kshipta and the Mudha. So Kshipta and Mudha, these are basically like the monkey mind and the donkey mind. You're thinking of too many things without focusing on anything, or you're not thinking at all. So this is a sign of tamas, and this is actually useless. We become dysfunctional both materially and spiritually. And next stage we discussed was, which is the next stage? Vikshipta. Vikshipta, here basically within our consciousness, there are many things, but they are partially focused. So there is one thing which is becoming slightly bigger. So here we discussed about consciousness can mean 3 distinct things. It can refer to the stream of awareness. It can refer to the content within that awareness. It can refer to the agent who is aware. So it's like I am having a computer. So I am looking at the computer screen, and on the computer screen many things are there, and I am choosing what to focus on. So that's the Vikshipta stage. This is where actually the spiritual journey, or you can say any kind of purposeful journey, it begins. Then after that, what is the next stage? The Ekagrata. Ekagrata is the attentive stage. So the stage of attention means that there is one thing which has become large in our consciousness. And now this Ekagrata can happen by the mana if we like something, emotion. Or it can happen by the buddhi if we understand that, if our reason understand that this is important. Now with respect to Krishna, generally if we go towards Krishna with mana, then it is, our emotions are fickle and unreliable. So for us, it is our buddhi that will keep us in the journey towards Krishna. This is strengthening our buddhi, hearing regularly. This is what will make us steady. And then after that, the last stage was Nirodha. So Nirodha is the stage where we are going toward Krishna, and it is not only our buddhi which is going towards Krishna, but along with that, our mana also is eager to go towards Krishna. And this is a stage where there is no inner struggle. It is susukham kartum avyayam. This is they could say the post nishtha stage. From nishtha ruchi asakti bhava prem. So, and then lastly within Nirodha, I talked about Nirodha can refer to either that the pure consciousness alone, that is nothing except consciousness. That is the Advaitic conception. But in the Nirodha can refer in the Bhakti conception, that is, the purity is in what? It is in all three, the subject, object and stream. We focus on Krishna, we want to have seva bhav, and we understand ourselves to be souls. So this is, I understand myself to be soul, I understand Krishna to be and then I have seva bhav. So this is the state of consciousness which is ecstatic. This is what we seek, not the Advaitic, static state of liberation. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Do we have time for questions?
Hare Krishna. Devotees who have question, you can raise your hand.
Okay.
Those who have asked yesterday, they will get chance later. First.
Hare Krishna, bro. That consciousness, the third one is agent of consciousness, correct? So does it refer to the soul or?
Soul, of course.
But we generally define consciousness as a symptom of the soul in the body, but not soul. But they're still it's different from the soul.
Yes, that's why it's a little complicated. See, there is. I was hoping to not make it complicated, but you are left with no alternative now. See, there is chit and there is chitta. Chit is a feature of the soul, like Sat, Chit, Ananda. The soul has three characteristics. So chit is a innate feature of the soul. Now chitta is, the word chitta is very complicated, it has many different meanings. But generally, one way to understand it, it refers to embodied consciousness. It's like, say, a child is watching TV. Now the child is in the home, comfortably sitting on a chair, maybe the mother is in a nearby room. The child can think of many things. But a child is watching TV, maybe the child is watching a horror movie. Child's consciousness is completely locked in that TV. And a child is feeling this shape-shifting monster is there. Child is getting horrified, screaming, trembling. So now even if the mother comes and touches the child, the child will think this monster has come and is about to devour me. Isn't it? So the child's consciousness is chit. But the child's consciousness that is locked in the TV screen, that is the chitta. So Purushaha Prakriti Stohi Bhungte Prakriti Jan Gunan. So Purushaha, so this is the soul. This is like this is the material world or matter, just put it as matter. The soul's consciousness is going into matter, but it's not just going, currently it is locked in matter. So because it is locked in matter, so whatever is here, this is chitta. So basically, on the child is watching a horror movie, on the screen also there might be many things. The child may focus on the monster, the child may focus on the victim who is trying to run away, the child may see some rescuer coming, there are many things you could pursue. But the consciousness is caught in the TV screen. So basically, right now, we have no capacity to pursue chit. We cannot pursue the Atma at all right now. But what we can perceive is the chitta. Chitta is the embodied consciousness. The consciousness, see, I cannot perceive right now my consciousness independent of how it is coming into my material body. I can perceive it as, okay, right now I am looking at you and I am considering whether you are understanding what I am saying or not. Or I am thinking whether I am understanding what I am speaking or not also. But I am aware. Now of course sometimes I could be even aware of the thoughts of my mind. That's what we say, be mindful. But beyond that, if the consciousness has not come into the mind or consciousness has not come into the body and outwards, I have no capacity to pursue my consciousness independent of how it has come into the mind and the body. So in that sense, we have no capacity to pursue consciousness. So for us, the agent of consciousness is also an important feature. So yes, the soul and consciousness, the relationship between them is like achintya bheda bheda. Because the energy and energetic are same and different. So there are times when we need to make a bhed, that the soul and consciousness are different things. Buddhism does not have this difference. See, there are two, Buddhism and Christianity, they have both very interesting ideas. See, like our philosophy is there is soul and the soul with consciousness, and then there is reincarnation. So that the soul has consciousness, soul reincarnates. Now what happens with Christianity is, Christianity accepts soul without reincarnation. This life is all that we have. Now Buddhism does the opposite. There is reincarnation without soul. Now you ask, okay, then what is it that is reincarnating? They have the idea of anarthavad. Anarthavad or anatmavad, that is a variant of atmavad. They say there is no such thing as soul. There is just a locus of consciousness which is just like a conglomeration of samskaras that is there, and that goes from one life to another life, and when you attain nirvana, then this conglomeration itself disappears, and there is no source of consciousness. So for us at our stage of awareness, we can't pursue consciousness at all. That's why I was saying consciousness for us in our experiential sense is what? That there is an object of consciousness, there is a stream of consciousness, and there is a subject. Although I cannot perceive the subject to be the soul, it is I can perceive that, okay, I am looking at you, trying to answer your question, but I am also looking at others. How bored are they? How technical is this question becoming? So it is, there is the object, there is the subject, there is the stream, and there is the subject. All three are required. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Where is the mic? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
I will come to you. Yeah, please.
Prabhu, like in Mayavad conception of Nirodh, they say that only consciousness remains. So if observer is not there, so how they get to know that consciousness only remains?
Yeah, so it's just existence. There's nothing beyond existence. So there's no perceiver, there's no perceiver. That's why the question comes up, Prabhupada will also sometimes, if we are going to merge, then who is it that gets liberated? And who is it who enjoys liberation also? So they say that it's just a state of joyfulness without anything to experience or anyone to experience.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Like we know the 5 gross elements, 3 subtle elements. Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. So your target is on the Ahankar level. The detailed discussion is in the ego, real ego and false ego. Or it is, see, when you say Ahankar, the consciousness is not clear. Because real consciousness is pure love is beyond that. Like in Chaitamrita it is said in Sloka, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Gabunai. The meaning I'll say, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, the love naturally awakens. So I'm asking you that level, Ahankar stage, real ego and false ego. Are you targeting on the real ego? The discussion is on the real ego stage.
Okay. See, this particular analysis, there are different ways in which Sankhya has been analyzed and broken down. So sometimes it is at 24 elements, sometimes 23, sometimes 24, 25, 26. Sometimes it's 14 elements, 16 elements. In the Uddhav Gita, in a commentary, Vishwanath Thakur writes that one of the verses, that Krishna is saying, the verse itself says that the sages analyze the material elements in different ways. And Krishna says, I am pleased by their creativity in analyzing in different ways. So you see that Krishna himself, when he analyzes, say in 342, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya parammana manasastu parabuddhe yo buddhe paratastu saha. There he does not bring the ego into the picture. He says about the sense object, senses, mind, intelligence, and the soul proper. Now there is Krishna, for example, 6.5 and 6, he says that Uddhar id atmanatmanam na atmanam avsadayet. He says that elevate yourself with your mind, don't degrade yourself with your mind. So Krishna is basically the soul and the mind. And we also do dramas of you and your mind. But there we don't bring in the buddhi. So basically, it's like a minimalist model. We can look at things and make them as complicated as we need to be. So now the ahankar, basically it's like if you consider the mind to be like software. so not the mind, the subtle body to be like software. Then basically the mind, intelligence and ego.
False ego.
Yeah, let's talk about it later. Mind, intelligence and ego. That these are basically all software only. So that means now structurally all software is just codes. Virus is a code and antivirus is also a code only. But it is functionally there is a difference. So functionally there can be a difference. That the way a virus and antivirus function is different. So mind, intelligence and ego, structurally they are all subtle. They are more or less made of the same thing. But the way they function differently. Structurally same, functionally different. Now why am I talking about this is that the concept of ego becomes a little complicated. Why? Because like I talked about consciousness, there is the content of consciousness, the stream of consciousness, all that is there. Now ego can refer to many different things. Ego can refer to a quality. That a person has a lot of ego. That's one way of looking at an ego. Now, you need to decrease your ego. So, now another thing is, ego is an element. It's a thing. It's one of the material elements, subtle element. So, now that is another aspect of what ego means. A third is, ego can refer to a sense of identity. So now this is where we use it in the sense of false ego and true ego. So now if you consider ahankaram, balam, darkam, kamam, krodham, cha samshveta. Krishna is describing in the 16th chapter ego as one of the qualities of the demoniac. So and he says this has to be given up. Now when that has to be given up, that does not mean that the functional element ego that is there linking the soul to the body, that has to be destroyed. No, that has to still be there. It is that quality that has to be given up. So, ego as a quality, you want to give it up. Now, ego as a material element, as a component of the subtle body, it will be always there. It is essential. It is essential for the soul if it's a function in the body, then it has to be there. So, it is this, we get a sense of identity associated with the body through the ego. And if we don't have that sense of identity, we will not be able to function. Now the question comes up, so this you could say it is like, it is the tool that gives us a sense of identity, the ego, as a material element. Now we can go into what is the sense of identity that I have. So the sense of identity broadly can be vyavaharik and it can be paramarthik. So vyavaharik is a practical identity, the world identity that we have. Paramarthik is the spiritual identity that we have. So now the vyavaharik identity itself is not to be given up, but it is to be done in such a way that it directs us towards the paramarthik. Say when I go to America, at immigration they ask me, hey, who are you? Where are you from? So at that time I can't say I am a soul. At that time I have to show my American passport. Sorry, Indian passport. And then they'll say, okay, I am from India. So there are times the vyavaharik identity is required. So I was talking with one American devotee, young Mataji. She said to me that, I see a big contradiction in Iskcon philosophy. He says, after I came to Iskcon, I was taught that I am not the body. So the philosophy teaches me I am not the body, but the culture constantly reminds me I am the body. Because as a woman, you cannot do this. As a woman, you cannot do that. As a woman, you cannot do that. So, he says there's a complete mismatch among this. Why like this? So I told her that yes, it may be true, but the point is what? See, when we say we are not the bodies, that is a philosophical realization, philosophical conception we need to get. But after that, we need to follow a process to get there. And that process requires us to avoid material temptation and material agitation. So that's why there is In the material world, in the materialistic society, there might be no distance among the genders. There might be no gender separation. And that's not because they are spiritually conscious. That is because they are so sensually conscious that they are lost in it. Now, yes, it should not lead to gender discrimination in the sense of devotees feeling discouraged. But the point is that even in bhakti, the vyavaharik identity may have to be emphasized at times. So, the way a grahastha deals with women will be different from the way a brahmachari sannyasi deals with women. I say, oh, I am neither a. Mahaprabhu said, Anaham Vipro Nacha. He said, I am none of these varnas, none of these varnas or ashrams. But then, when he dealt with women, he was dealing in a particular way. So, we need to acknowledge our vyavaharik identity, but in a way that takes us toward the paramarthik. Now, this can go sometimes in the extreme, where women may be too restricted or they may not be allowed to do any service. No, there has to be scope for everyone to do service. So the point I'm making is, to conclude this answer is that the ego, when we say false ego or true ego, it refers to more, it's like the content of the ego. What is the sense of identity that is created by the ego? So at one level we can say false ego and true ego, but it is more that, is my current sense of identity taking me towards my eternal identity? So for me, each of us can have multiple identities. Say, I can say that I am a brahmachari, I can say I am an Indian, I am an intellectual, I am a middle-aged person, I am no longer young, whatever. I can have different kinds of identities. Now, which sense of identity is anukul for me to go towards Krishna? And which sense of identity is pratikul? So, if say if a male preacher is interacting with a female, then the sense of identity that is anukul is, I am a teacher. This is a student, let me explain the concept. But if at that time I start thinking I am a male and this is a female, and then the desires start getting triggered accordingly, then that is pratikul. So basically, we have, within our ego, at present there are many senses of identity. Like I am an engineer, or I have so and so degree. So it's like, you could put it this way, that we have our paramarthik identity. That is our fundamental identity. And then we have many functional identities. So, functional identities we may have. It may be based on our age, our gender, our nationality, our profession, our income level, our varna, our ashram, many things. So now what we need to do is that which of these functional identities actually brings me closer to Krishna, and which functional identity takes me further away from Krishna. So I accept this and I avoid this. So in that sense, the content of my ego right now, it cannot simply be I am a servant of Krishna. Yes, that is what I am ultimately seeking. Yes, I am a servant of Krishna, but in what role am I a servant of Krishna? So if a devotee is a temple president, if a devotee is a manager, if a devotee is a counselor, should a devotee identify with that? Well, yes, some level of identification is required so that devotee can do that service responsibly. If the devotee starts saying, okay, I am a temple president, but I am a counselor, but sarvopadi vinirmukta, I am not a counselor. So when I need service from you, I am your counselor. When you need something from me, I am no longer your counselor. That won't work, isn't it? So we do need a sense of identity in this world. So those functional identities that take us toward Krishna, those we accept. Those functional identities that take us away from Krishna, we try to avoid those. So that is how our present sense of ego will take us towards the pure ego, towards the pure identity as servant of Krishna. Okay, thank you. I think we should stop here. So maybe I'll be here for some time. We can have some questions. You had one question. We'll finish with that. You can send the mic there, please. Is the mic going there? Or?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. How to make Nishtha strongest?
How do you make the Nishtha strong? Well, generally, first requirement is Buddhi. We need to make our intelligence very strong. That means we hear and we understand. Then we say, yes, this is the ultimate reality. And then after that, we need to have our own experiences. It's like when I go to a doctor. Initially, I'm thinking, okay, this person has a clinic, this person has some reputation. Maybe let me go and try it out. I'm sick. But then we go and the doctor gives a diagnosis. That is appealing to our intelligence. Okay, this makes sense. The doctor is saying, I told these many symptoms, but doctor told all these things. All those symptoms are also there in me. I think doctor knows what is happening. Then we take the treatment. And if the treatment cures us, then we get, yes, this is a good doctor. If future I'm sick, I have to go there. So basically, that faith that this is a good doctor, that comes from two things. It is intelligence when the diagnosis makes sense, and then experience when the treatment helps us get cured. So generally, Shraddha is developed in these two ways. First, we sharpen our buddhi so that we understand what is what. And then we apply it, pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam. We apply it and we get experience. And then after we get some experience, say we may watch some movies and we feel good, we go to some hill station and feel good. But we come to a temple and participate in the kirtan. I have never felt as good as I felt over here. Now, this is the best feeling that I can have. And then we need to remember that. And then this is what I want more and more. So it is generally through intelligence and experience that Shraddha becomes strong and comes eventually to the state of Nishtha. So thank you very much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. I have written a few books. This is Wisdom. This is Living the Ramayana.